Woo! It's OPEX. You already know. Welcome back. Got another video for you today. So I've done about 100 relationship videos or something like that, right? And today is another one of them relationship videos, but we're going to dive into something that I perhaps haven't really discussed too much about. But I am going to dive and put things together from different said topics in the past. This could be communication, this could be a lot of different things. However, the most important part of this video is going to touch on respect. Now, when I was a kid, I was brought up respect. Respect your elders, respect your peers, respect everyone, don't hit anyone, keep your hands to yourself, respect, right? Give respect to everyone, even if they don't quote unquote deserve it. Give them respect. Right? This could be respect an old lady, don't steal money out of her purse, whatever, right? It's just a respect factor. This is like the ultimate thing you learn as a kid, or at least you should learn as a kid, especially when you have a father around. Now, a lot of people don't have fathers around, or they get divorced at a young age, or parents get divorced at a young age. And a lot of people actually, truly don't really figure out what respect entails, nor understand why it's so important or relevant in their life to respect others. Yeah, I know a lot of people are like, dude, we all had respect. Everyone's grown up with respect. Well, in the neighborhood that I grew up in, I remember my parents taught me, respect. Go to the neighbor's house, all those kids were like, no, everything's respect, respect, respect. Respect comes first. It's not earned, it's given, right? Now, there's something that happens in a lot of people's lives where they lose touch with this respect factor. They go through environmental circumstances, they go through different scenarios and experiences in which they lose respect for others. And this generally happens through relationships. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to happen through strangers, right? Like, you might go to a gas station in a different town. Oh, I'll never see this person again, so I don't have to treat them with respect. Or whatever, right? People lose touch with the respect factor. But when it comes to personal relationships, it's devastating. It's devastating because, let's say you're in a relationship in which you just went out on a first date with someone. You showed the person respect because you might like this person or want to get to know this person. Okay, this truck literally just went in the ditch for no reason. Barely skinned out of that alive. Get off your phone, asshole! At least when I'm on my phone, it's hands-free and I'm paying attention. Anyways, back to the video. You're in a first date. You respect the other person, or at least you pretend to respect the other person. Just because you're having butterflies, you might be able to get some pussy, whatever the case, right? And you respect that other person, which is very typical. Generally speaking, you want to give your best side on a first date. Especially women, they tend to grasp onto that first idea that they get off the other person. So, when you're grasping onto that first date scenario, you're wanting to show good sides of you. You're not going to show all the bad sides. You're not going to treat your date with disrespect, right? Now, there's something that happens along the lines where, in relationships, people tend to lose sight of the respect factor. And I think it's rather important to discuss these things, right? Now, this could be a small thing that starts off. And because you love the other person, you're like, well, I don't want to argue with you. You just treated me like shit, but I'm just going to look the other way. Or you might be the person that says, I ain't tolerating that shit, and then you yell back, or you failed to communicate, or whatever, right? And what both of these things are doing is enabling something that can spiral out of control. Kind of, roll down a hill and just, have more shit clinging onto that thing, and then the boulder gets bigger, and then it becomes more of a disaster, right? So it can spiral out of control. And the best way to go about this is to sit down, communicate, say, hey, you just freaked out, you yelled at me or whatever. We need to sit down and have a rational discussion about this, because I'm not going to tolerate that. I respect you, you know, and you're just showing something that is very evil or wrong, right? So you go down and have a rational discussion immediately. Not in a week, not even when that other person calms down. Immediately. The reason being is because if you are not standing up for yourself, or if you are going overboard and yelling back and such, you know, playing fire with fire, or playing with gasoline with fire, whatever you want to call it. The problem is that you're going to become an enabler, and now you're creating a circumstance that is going to happen much more often, right? You become to despise the other person. A relationship is not based on despise. It's not based on irrational or emotional arguments. It's based on love. It's based on value, right? Now, how do you provide or extract the value from the other person? Well, you give it, and then you get it in return, right? So if I'm a man, let's just say, because I've talked about this millions of times in the past, traditional relationships, where generally speaking, the man's out there making money, creating all the resources, coming home, and gladly will share all the resources or the loot that he acquires or earns. Because the woman's there taking care of the kids, taking care of the house, taking care of other aspects of the life, right? Coming home and there's food on the table because the man purchased it, the woman prepared it, whatever, right? It's a mutual relationship bond where you're both providing value. Watch my video, Providing Value. It's the most important thing about a relationship is respect and value, right? If you don't have those two things, you can't communicate. You can't love the other person. You can't respect the other person, right? Well, obviously, if you don't respect the other person, you don't respect the other person, right? Straight up. So, communication's key. If you're sitting down and responding, saying, hey, you just snapped at me, and I didn't deserve that. You sit down and say, hey, I'm putting my foot down. That was very disrespectful. It doesn't matter if you're the man or the woman. You got to sit down and be like, hey, you don't do that to me. You know, this is not how relationships work. This might have been how you thought your parents had a relationship. We're not doing that here. Here's going to be a nice, beautiful relationship. We're both going to provide value. We're both going to respect each other. It's going to be the foundation of our relationship. In fact, even before somebody snaps at the other person, sit down and have that conversation. Now, I've said this before, and I know this is tough, especially for youth, so I think a lot of times I inquire that you share this video to the youth, even though the ADD and all that shit's going on where they're not going to focus on anything if it's not extremely entertaining, right? But the information is valid. If a young person just had half the knowledge that I had, they wouldn't go out and have sex, unprotected sex with somebody that they don't really understand. What you do is you sit down with someone. You have a rational discussion about, hey, this is what I want out of life. This is what you want out of life. We want children. We want this. We want that. How are we going to parent the children? You have this discussion before you have the child. Or else the man's going to go running, the woman's going to have expectations, and it's not going to work. Because you never sat down and had that conversation. And part of that problem is because you didn't respect each other. Straight up. You did not respect the other person enough. So that was a bad relationship quality, right? Don't you want the best out of your children? Don't you want the best out of your partner? Don't you want the best out of yourself, right? Providing value shows that you respect the other person. Sitting down, hearing each other's dreams and goals, shit, even their fucking, their hobbies, right? Man's watching the football game, that's like the biggest thing in his life, that's his biggest hobby is the football fucking game, right? As a woman, it should be your obligation, or at least enough respect, to try to talk to that man about football. And not stupidly, but as, wow, is your team winning? Hey, and try to spark them in. Like, wow, this woman really, really loves me enough, or cares about me, respects me enough to want to get involved with the things that I'm passionate about. Vice versa. Woman loves... I just showed you all I know about women right there. Woman loves a specific TV show. I don't know. Let's just say that she likes a TV show, and this specific TV show, she's so passionate and excited about it, right? You might think it's boring as a man. Like, oh my God, I don't want to sit down and watch this shit with her. It's boring. But you put that aside because of how much respect and care and love you have for that woman, that you're going to sit down and watch that and hear about everything that makes her heart go, her passions, her mind, how she feels, all those things you can get wrapped into, which is going to make that relationship much more stronger. It has something to do with respect. Now, if you have that type of communication, that type of involved nature with each other, like if you always want to be involved with each other, that's a strong relationship. When you have that type of relationship, you're not distant, right? You're always going to be involved. Hey honey, how was work? Great, blah blah blah. How was taking care of the house? Or how was the plumber came over today, how'd that go? You have these engaging conversations about what happened in that person's day. And when you do that, that's showing respect, not only showing that, hey, you kind of care, it's showing that you care enough to want to know what's going on in your significant other's life. That's rather important, right? It's essential, rather. Right? So when you're not together, you're showing that you're thinking of each other. So it's rather important. That's communication, that's respect. Think of it like this. If you have a child, it's not your child's obligation to tell you when something bad happened at school, or this happened when, I went to the babysitter or whatever, right? Grandma took care of me, so she was also taking care of her other grandson, my cousin, and he bullied me. It's not the child's job to be aware of that. It's your job as a parent to be involved. That has a level of respect. I respect my child. I respect my child so much, I'm not going to punish my child. I'm going to think with my child and raise my child with morals and ethics and non-aggression and, love and respect. Right? So you're going to try to be involved. Key here is involved. Because if you respect somebody, you're going to be involved. Especially when it's someone you love to that extreme of a significant other, your child, your parents, etc. Right? But it's not the job of the child to come to you when there's a problem. Same thing should be located and understood in your significant other, your husband or wife. The reason being is because if your husband's coming home and he's like, my back hurts. Let's say he just got, outbeat for a position at work or something. Well, it's not the man's job to bring that all to the table. It's actually the woman's, or the other person, right? The other significant other. It could be vice versa. It could be the woman coming home from work, etc., right? But it's the job of the other person to get involved, not the person who had the bad day. The reason being is because that shows that you are committed. That shows that you have respect. That shows that your communication is based on your heart and your connectedness. It's a yin and yang. Same thing if your significant other comes home and is very happy, right? This could be vice versa. This could be in any different type of relationship setting. But one person's extremely happy, like, oh, what happened to you today? You look amazing. You look great, right? This could be the man's status to the woman to the man, right? Could be either way. It could be the wife staying home, just watched a great TV show or whatever, right? I don't even know. Just had some great time with their kids. went to the park and she's in an extremely happy mood, took the kids and the dog to the park or whatever, right? And just had a great time talking to the other parents, at the park or whatever, right? And she's in a good mood. So you come home and you might not be in a good mood. It's not your responsibility to change her into a horrible mood. It's your responsibility to ask something about that other person. Wow, you look amazing today, honey. How was everything? What'd you do? What'd you talk about? Now, again, it could be boring as fuck to you, but just showing that you care about her day, how she felt, her how it went altogether is an utmost form of respect. Now, when you're doing this changes the argument. This changes things, because when you're lifting somebody up and saying that you're involved and you're part of the team, you guys aren't going to argue in terms of negativity or on emotion or anything like that. It's going to be more based on reason and evidence or positivity. Like, hey, what's morally consistent? What's better for the other person? Now, when you remove these things, what do you get? Disrespect. Right? Once you lose that, which is inevitable, you're going to lose that flair. So it's going to take work. Relationships take work, but you do it because of children, generally. Right? You try to make things work because you don't want to be alone. You don't want to hurt the other person. You don't want your children to be grown up without their biological father or mother, right? You don't want that because you know, especially if you know, the more you know, you're like, I don't want my kids to grow up in a very negative environment. I want to be around my kids. I want to show my kids, positivity and just a happier life. And how do you become more motivated? How do you get more money? How do you do these things? You want to show your kids these things, and there's specific roles from the mother and the father that both need to happen in order for your kids to be very successful in life. You need the stern father. You need the passionate mother and the nurturer of a mother. You need these things and these qualities to show you that life isn't a disaster. Life isn't about teen pregnancies. Life isn't about incarceration. Life can be what you make of it. And your parents show you the way. Again, when you take the respect factor out, you're going to get disrespect. How does this disrespect manifest? It could be snapping on the other person. It could be a wide variety of different things that happen that can spiral out of control. So, for example, and this can happen early on, way before you have children. This could happen on your second date, right? Where you bring up a conversation of topic. This topic is a buzz topic for the other person, and the other person needs a safe space from the topic. This could be like a husband talking, or a boyfriend talking to a girlfriend, trying to talk about, hey, this is how I feel about my religion, right? Man and woman stays together no matter what, and takes care of the children and tries to provide the most for the children under God or whatever, right? So I'm bringing religion into this, which I have been doing lately, which I actually really don't like doing, but you guys understand the topic of religion. So you take that topic and the woman's, let's say, an atheist, right? And it's like, no, we're not putting that fucking bullshit on our kids. Well, instead of getting defensive, instead of understanding, or instead of propagating things and making things so negative and having something that is not reasonable in discussion terms, what you should do is communicate. Say, hey, at a reasonable level, decent tonality, stop it right there before you become aggressive towards this. I'm really passionate about not teaching my kids, if they don't do something, they go into eternity in hell. Because that's actually pretty shitty to do to someone, right? Especially a child. So, as that woman in that scenario, you would want to say, hey, I know what you're trying to do, and I know you're trying to be helpful, This is called empathy. Because what you're doing is you're actually using philosophy. You're using the philosophy that you're given, whether that's opinion-based, belief, fact, whatever. Environmental, anecdotal, empirical, whatever. You're using your argument in an empathetic way, which is not going to be harmful towards the relationship, where you're using respect to each other. Now, once you say, I don't like that topic, no matter what, we're not raising our kids to go to church, we're not doing that stuff. Once you do that, you've just created an environment where things are going to be spiraling out of control. Because when you are censoring the other person, saying, nope, we are not having that discussion, and you're censoring that other person, doesn't matter, male or female in that scenario, once you are censoring the other person, that is a direct violation of that person's freedom of speech, happiness, and it's a form of disrespect. So what you're initially doing might seem like, oh, it's only a one-time thing, she just doesn't like the topic. No, what you're doing by censoring your loved one is showing how much you don't actually love your loved one. It's a form of disrespect. Then other things will start spiraling out of control from that, and you might think, oh, you just got to censor yourself around the subject, and that's going to turn into whenever you say anything that's, appalling or upsetting, becomes instantly censored. Shut up, it will become. It'll become a variety of different problems in your relationship, which will spiral from disrespect to disrespect, and it'll get worse and worse and worse. There'll be more things that are going to be censored. There's going to be more things that you need to shut up and just do. Again, it doesn't matter if it's a woman or the man. It just becomes the reality in which becomes very negative in a very disrespectful type of environment. This is where divorce can stem from. This could be all different types of problems. This could be problems in your relationship where the man has to sleep out on the couch. I would never get to that point, right? There's no way. I know a lot of men are like, you would have to tuck your tail between your legs once in a while. I'm not saying that not tuck your tail between your legs once in a while. What I am saying is you gotta, once you're disrespected, you make it fucking known and you make it stop right there. Again, doesn't mean that you have to. What it means is that you stop it. You use your empathy, you use your respect. And if it does not stop immediately, get the fuck out of that relationship. Get the fuck out of that relationship. Immediately. Because if that doesn't stop immediately, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. Give that politician an inch, that politician's going to take a mile. Same thing goes with your relationships. Once you tuck your tail between your legs, you are expected to do it more often. And it's not going to just stabilize. It's not going to be, I found God, now I'm not going to treat you like shit. No. You're going to be treated like shit. And there is no absolute way to come back from that. So you stop that shit in the tracks immediately. A relationship is a good relationship, or it is not a relationship at all. You're just staying with somebody. Well, you can have a disaster type relationship, but it's not a relationship worth having. So, communication, respect, understand each other's dreams, your goals with children, etc. Understand these things. Base everything on empathy. Because without empathy and compassion, you're going to have an ugly personality. And once somebody snaps at the other person and isn't immediately corrected or immediately apologetic or whatever, you need to fix that or get the fuck out, because it's going to get worse and worse. I don't know why I'm so thirsty today. Drank some coffee earlier, now I'm just chugging this water. Anyways, I know coffee's a dehydrator, but anyways. So, communication, respect, and when you're communicating, you should have these topics of discussion. explain to the other person why it's so important to talk about these topics. Well, I don't want to talk about children, or maybe I'll have children. No. What do you want? Right? You always hear this thing like with women, right? Okay, why are you swerving into my lane, buddy? You hear these topics with men and women where a man would ask the woman, what do you want for dinner? Oh, I don't know. No, you better fucking know. It's not cute to say I don't know. Right? It's not cute. You get to the point, you talk, you be realistic, you talk about real shit, you talk about things that are open. You want an open relationship. You don't want to hide anything, right? And when you have that bullshit of, oh, I don't know, well, what are you doing? You're playing with the other person. I don't play games. It's generally why I'm single. I don't play games, right? I want an honest and open discussion about everything. If you don't know what you want, then you don't want anything. And then I'm not going to give you anything. It's not being disrespectful, it's you just told me what you want. You don't know what you want, so but until you do, you're not getting nothing. Right? Now, once you have an honest and open discussion, and then you're actually close enough to communicate with each other, then that's where your relationship gets a lot better. But do not tolerate that bullshit. Don't tolerate abstract bullshit. Don't tolerate that. Right? That's disrespectful to do to somebody. That's like, you want the other person's opinion on something. For example, if I'm a guy and I just saved up 50 grand and I wanted to buy a nice car, I have a variety of choices. I go up to my wife and say, hey, what do you think about this car? She goes, I don't know. Yeah, go for it. No. What do you think about it? Look at the price tag. Get into this honest, open discussion with me. I don't care. Just do what you want. It's going to be your car. Get out of that mentality, because that becomes a problem. Because that's showing that you don't even fucking respect the other person. If somebody asks for your opinion and you're in a relationship with that person, you better give an honest opinion. Because once you're not honest and you don't care, that becomes a problem. That's going to be something spiraling out of control. If you're, and I'm using this because, especially man to a woman, because I see that more often. I know the big towels are going to love that on my channel, but I see it more often where the man tucks his tail between his legs and deals with the woman. All right? I see that more often. And that's why men tend to leave relationships, because they don't put up with that shit. And women don't understand that generally, right? Are there good women out there? Obviously. Watch my message to men video, watch my message to women video. There are decent people out there, obviously. Now, if a woman, and I see this often, that's why I'm bringing it up, I see it often. There's a lot of evidence towards this type of scenario. Woman's on her iPad or on the computer, or could be vice versa. I'm just putting this analogy out there. And the husband says something that is rather important, wants to talk about a discussion. Say, hey, I'm going to the barbershop tomorrow, and then I'm going to go get some groceries. Do you want anything from the store? Blah, 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 whatever, right? And she's like, oh, no. Just fucking around on the computer or iPad or phone or whatever, playing a game on her phone or whatever. Well, you're not having respect to look over and give your significant other your full-fledged attention. Wait a minute. You don't respect your significant other enough to at least give him your attention or her attention? What the fuck is wrong with you? Give your loved one respect. I don't care if you've heard a topic of discussion from that person and heard the same story or heard the same shit from your significant other. It doesn't matter. Show respect. Once you lose that respect, it's gonna spiral out of control. Inevitably. It's not a one-time problem. Alright? It's not gonna be something that's gonna be corrected. Unless you correct it immediately. That's the only chance. I give the other person one chance. Sometimes not even. If it's on a first or second date and I realize some bullshit, I'm like, I ain't gonna try to fix that shit. That shit's fucked up. I give people one chance. I think Stefan Molyneux actually said this before, and I've been on the fence about agreeing with it, but he said something along the lines is, you treat somebody with your utmost respect the very first time you see that person. Utmost respect, and continuously, until they treat you not the same way. Then you treat them the way that they treated you. Now, I'm still on the fence with that. I don't entirely fall victim to that mentality. But I will say, respect to the end. But if somebody does not give you the same respect in return, get the fuck out. And generally, you'll see that relatively soon in your relationship. This could be a friend relationship. This could be a boyfriend, girlfriend. This could be whoever, right? Same thing with your child. If your child all of a sudden started back-talking you, well, you need to sit down and say, hey, now, if your kid's 8 years old and this was the first time that kid just did something that was like, whoa, you don't tell me this shit. That's very disrespectful. You sit your child down and you have an honest, open discussion. Hey, why did you do that? Why did you think I deserve that kind of treatment? Did I do that to you? Let's have an open discussion, right? Now, you might say, well, that's weakness of a parent. No, weakness of a parent is hitting your kid. That's disrespectful to hit your child. What's respectful is you sit down and have an open conversation, right? Because what you're teaching your kid is truly respectful. Because you are basically the role model. You are basically the environmental factor. You're going to be the result of your parents unless you change something, right? So you need to be the, what's the word? You need to be the example, right, for your children. Because your children are going to go into that walk your same footsteps. Now, before this video becomes too long, I wanted to let you guys know that you need to stop it in front of you, right in its tracks. Whatever evil, whatever disrespect comes your way, you need to end that shit immediately. The chick's raising her voice or the man's raising her voice, be like, hey, your tonality is like, do you think I deserve this? Did I do something that wrong where I deserve that? And if it becomes, yes, you did, well, then you have that honest discussion. Hey, I'm sorry. I'll never do that again. And you both need to tuck your fucking tail between your legs. Not just one of you. Because if one person's becoming the bully of the relationship, that's not a healthy relationship. How many fucking successful relationships do you see of bitching? A lot. That people claim to be successful. Well, we stuck together because we stuck together. We did it for the kids, but then we realized once they left the house, we don't want to be alone. But we yell at each other, we make fun of each other, we bitch at each other. Well, if that's what you want to do, that's not a healthy relationship. That's we stuck together. But the point is, relationships take work. It's not easy. Once you add a child to the equation, it becomes complicated. Once you add a child into the relationship, you need to start focusing on that child. Show the child respect. And how do you do it more than just showing the child your respect to the child? Right? How? By showing it amongst your relationship with your significant other. To show it when you bring company over the house. You show respect. You show respect wherever it is possible. Right? And the child's going to see, wow, very respectful. It seems to be a pleasure to be around. Who doesn't like to be happy? If you're seeing your significant other and it's like, oh, he said this topic again. Why do we have to talk about this shit? Or, oh, you're going to watch the show again? That show is just melting your brain. If you're having that type of disrespect to each other, what do you expect? It's a very, very hostile environment that can immediately sprout from one incident that is not corrected. You correct something once. What's the saying? Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, right? The same logic applies to disrespect. You disrespected me once. If I correct that, then we're good. Now you disrespect me once, I thought it was corrected and it wasn't, get the fuck out of there. That's not someone you should be around. That's going to be an environment in which is going to be devastating to you and potentially the rest of your life. And it could be detrimental to every aspect of your life, your loved ones even, your family, everyone, right? Same thing like if your significant other said something bad to your mom, right? Like, it might not be you, it could be another person that you're directly getting affected because, wow, now you're caught in between my wife and my mom arguing and bitching at each other and talking shit about each other. You need to sit down and correct it with both of them immediately. This is not how it's going to work. We're going to have a loving family, and we're going to sit down and both have, all three of us, put our tail between our legs, because the importance of a healthy relationship comes before bullying, becomes before disrespect, comes before showing a terrible experience with our child, right? So that's ultimately what I want to get with, is that you need to correct those problems. Sit down, communicate. If those problems cannot be resolved because of feelings or censorship or disrespect or any form of disrespect, fix it, get the fuck out. One of those two things have to happen, or else you're going to be in a world of hurt. That's enough for this video. I got plenty more coming. Stay tuned. It's OPEX. I'm out.